Paul Looney, all from DPW. And we have Al Spalding, the building inspector. We've got Sierra Pelletier, assistant planner, and myself, Valerie Gingrich, director of planning conservation. And today's CDTR meeting is one thing on the agenda, which is Princeton Properties proposed 40B development at Jefferson Road. Andrew, if you want to introduce your team and have them give us a little bit of an overview of the project, and we can get into some initial comments.
Perfect. Happy to. Thanks everyone for taking the time this morning. My team is on the phone. Together with me are my business partner, Dan Endyke, of approaching 27 years now. Andrea Lathrop, our trusted assistant who makes all of this work. And Joe Pesnola, our long time civil engineer from the firm of Hancock Associates. So that everyone understands the project team, Rob Schaefer and David White are the architects. They have been the architects for 3 of our last 5 new construction jobs, and we've got a long-term working relationship with Rob and David, and they have done projects for us in North Andover, in Chelmsford, and in Westford, all of which are available for everyone to see should they wish to do so. And the traffic engineer for the project is Jeff Dirk at Vanessa & Associates, who's also done our traffic work for the last 20 years. Princeton is a company that owns and manages in excess of 7,000 apartment homes. We're a bit of a one-trick pony. We only do one thing, which is multifamily. We're in downtown Boston. We're in the surrounding cities. We are the largest landlord in Lowell, Massachusetts, in Nashua, New Hampshire, and in Portland, Maine. The company was founded in the Merrimack Valley in 1973. The chairman of the company is still the chairman of the company today. And Dan and I have had the pleasure of running the development part of the office, as I said, for the last 27 years, now with Andrea's help. The project is going to be known as Princeton Wilmington Apartment Homes. It'll be 108 apartment homes on a 23-acre parcel at the corner of Middlesex and Jefferson. High end. The uniqueness to this project is not only that it's being permitted in a different way, but it's in partnership with the Board of Selectmen of the town of Wilmington. As many of you already know, we've had an opportunity to go before the Board of Selectmen and gain their endorsement. So in essence, they are our partner in moving this local initiative program forward. The project will contain 43 2-bedrooms, 54 1-bedroom, and 11 3-bedroom apartment homes. It'll have amenity space for the residents, including a central leasing office and state-of-the-art workout area. It'll have garage parking in the first building, and we'll have individual garage bays as well as exterior parking for the second building. The affordable units will be distributed evenly throughout the buildings, floor levels, and unit styles. Everything will be basically indistinguishable. I'm going to ask my partner Dan to walk us through the project timeline as well as the MassWorks application piece. Dan?
Thanks, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. I'll be very brief. We, as Andrew mentioned, this is a LIP application through 40B, and we opened our hearing with the Zoning Board of Appeals last week. We're opening our hearing with the Conservation Commission this week. We're on a fairly aggressive timeline, and I'll explain why. But I think the overarching comment that we want to leave before we have Joe take over and have your comments come in is the ZBA has an expectation, if at all possible, to have department head comments in for our next hearing with them, which is Wednesday the 27th, so a week from this Wednesday. Is their timeline to hopefully have comments from the different department heads. We're on an aggressive overall schedule to try to get through both the Zoning Board of Appeals and Conservation because of what Andrew mentioned is an integral part to the development, which is to secure a MassWorks grant. And just quickly with MassWorks, it's a infrastructure improvement program offered through the Commonwealth, where if you bring a project that they consider a worthy project, but it would not be economically feasible without their infusion of capital for off-site necessities, And for this project, we have to connect the sewer line from where it ends on Salem Street all the way down Middlesex and into our development site. And that's the thrust of the MassWorks grant dollars that we're seeking. It also includes some other improvements, including a culvert repair, replacement on Middlesex. And the total grant is somewhere between, we anticipate being between $2 and $2.5 million. The application for MassWorks has to be in, we expect, the loose date is expected to be on August 1st of this year. So that's why our timing to get through conservation and ZBA is tight and aggressive. And, you know, if it weren't for the partnership that we have in place with the town, if it was a normal 40B, I don't think we'd be as buoyed about getting it done. So that's our timeline in a nutshell. I'll turn it over to Joe to kind of walk through the site plan and take it from there.
Good morning. Valerie, I don't know if you can share the screen. Brian Gaudreau is here with us. Brian's one of our engineers who's worked on the design. To share, Brian to share the screen so he can pull up the plans.
Sure.
Site plan.
Let me grab those.
Brian, you can go ahead and share your screen when you're ready.
So I'll just start. So the site itself is on the corner of Middlesex Avenue and Jefferson Road. Jefferson Road currently is developed with the commuter rail lot on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, on the corner of Middlesex, there's some old tired retail buildings with some shops in them. Then back on further on Jefferson is an office building. I think that was built in the 80s. And if you go all the way back out to the end of Jefferson, there's a parking lot that's very rarely used. That's associated with the office building and was needed when the office parking in Wilmington requirements were higher, but it's not needed from the standpoint of zoning today, and it's not physically needed because it's not used. It's empty most of the time. Some tractor trailers tend to go back there. So this is somewhat of a redevelopment plan to redevelop that front parcel. The office building and the commuter rail lot and the other vacant lot on up against the railroad are not part of the project. We would re-subdivide the lots and create this 23-acre site that you see here in green. There's a lot of land that's not being used. That's wetland. That's riverfront. There's kind of an island out back that at one time in a Mill Creek proposal was going to be utilized as a long wetland crossing, but that's not the case. That'll just be left in its natural state. The site is bounded by the railroad to the west, and by Lubbers Brook to the east, and by Jefferson and Middlesex to the south. There is riverfront, bordering vegetated wetlands and floodplain on site, and we've delineated all of that. And as Dan said, we start on Wednesday with an ANRAD to set those development, those resource lines with conservation. So the proposal would be to again redevelop the front lot with what we call Building A, which is a 58 unit building with parking under. Brian, if you can move to the layout of materials for Building A.
So Joe, I'm sharing my screen. Brian, do you have it pulled up that you could share yours?
Yeah, I got it. Let me try. There we go.
So Building A is out front, and as you can see, there's the existing pavement line, which kind of develops or defines the majority of the development. The back of the L-shaped part of Building A is in an area that's currently not developed. So access to the underground parking would be back off of Jefferson. And then the surface parking lot would be accessed by both Middlesex and Jefferson. There's 46 spaces under the building. There's 98 spaces total for the 58 units, parking ratio of 1.65. The unit mix in this project is it 50% ones, 40% twos, and 10% threes?
Correct.
So it's a high mix of one bedrooms, which is currently the market demand, a higher number of one bedrooms. There's a requirement by the state for the 10% three bedrooms. So that's in there, and they're dispersed. Both unit types and the 20% affordable are dispersed within the two buildings and all the unit types. So Building B is out back, and that is 50 units, and that's 4 stories with all surface parking except for 2 small garage buildings, which would have 9 and 6 bays with demising walls between, and those would be offered to residents for an additional lease for the interior spaces. There's 83 spaces on this lot, including the garages, again for a 1.65 unit parking spaces per unit. We believe the parking is sufficient. It's commensurate with what we've been providing in most of our multifamily projects, and with this project in particular, it's got the commuter lot there, so even more so, we think that that it's well positioned. With regards to the Jefferson Road, we propose to basically redo it, pull up the pavement, install vertical granite curbing. It's kind of, as you come in off of Middlesex, it's kind of wide open on the right-hand side with direct access to the retail building. But we're going to put 24 feet of pavement, vertical granite curbing, and sidewalk on the left-hand side, and then introduce some mid-block crosswalks over to the commuter lot from Building A, and then access to the commuter rail would be, and Building B would be down on that westerly side. So I'll turn it over to Brian, and he can go over the soil testing that we did and stormwater, as well as our preliminary thoughts on sewer.
Thank you. So we were out there a few weeks ago at this point, conducting soil testing. We dug basically all over site to understand what soils are and what we're dealing with for a seasonal groundwater elevation. Groundwater is relatively static at the wetland elevation, ranges from 3 to 3.5 feet down. Soils are very consistent. It's urban fill over a coarse, sandy material, and groundwater, because of Lover's Brook, is fairly free flowing. So with that understanding, we set building elevations to be above floodplain, to be above seasonal high groundwater, and then kind of built up the site from there. Stormwater management is underground systems. There's going to be a system for building 1, or building A, a system for building B, and then we're actually a good chunk of Jefferson Road between A and B as you head towards the crossing. So as a part of improving Jefferson in terms of roadway width and sidewalks and granite, we're also mitigating stormwater, which is currently totally unmitigated right now, where we have catch basins directing runoff directly into Lover's Brook at both Middlesex and Jefferson Road. So we're fixing those pieces as a part of this development. Topographically, we are making some changes out here, and it's really necessitated by the site constraints, by groundwater elevation, by the elevation of what Jefferson Road is today, and then obviously our parking demand for building A, really requiring that garage be underneath the building. So there's some walls that are associated with the development in the parking lot. Generally, the elevation is going to slope up from Middlesex and Jefferson to the front door of building A, and then obviously the garage under will be coming down from Jefferson to underneath on the back portion of the site. A little bit different because we don't have that garage under the building. It's going to be relatively flat. We are picking up grade from what is the existing parking lot because we are burying stormwater and we have to maintain our offsets to seasonal high groundwater. So it is in that fill site. But generally speaking, our stormwater approach throughout is to take what is unmitigated, treat it, and attenuate and provide for recharge. So in terms of compliance, we're coming into this with an eye as new development as opposed to redevelopment. There's a small section of Jefferson that is existing today that we can't really provide any sort of recharge, and it is exclusive to the crossing area in the middle. The entire rest of the site is being designed for new development standards as well as the local stormwater bylaw. I guess to get into the site layout a little bit, we did do a swept path analysis for the fire department to be able to navigate the site with their largest apparatus. So building A, you can come in both curb cuts. There's 2 staging areas. At the ends of the buildings, you have access on 3 sides, and then we're meeting our minimum 250 feet from a staging area. And we're doing the same thing on building B. We're designing for the apparatus to kind of loop around that parking lot, have multiple staging areas if required, and then on the back side of the building where there is no pavement access, it would be man ladders, meet that minimum requirements. We think we're in full compliance with CMR from a fire department perspective. Generally, I think that's our design approach. That's kind of how we arrived at this specific layout. And one goal for today, I think, is to really understand any outstanding concerns or comments from each of the departments so that we can get our laundry list together and really be productive on the 27th and hopefully address anything that you guys have that are out there. Also, one key point being the peer review. The ZBA gave us some direction or gave direction that it was ultimately, I think, Valerie's decision or department head decision who that's going to be. So I'd like to understand who the peer reviewer is, and hopefully get that piece going.
On the sewer, we're proposing to have obviously a sewer pump station. The sewer pump station will be right now we're locating it somewhere down on the side of Jefferson Road, near Middlesex. There'll be gravity from building A and gravity from building B to that point. Building A will also need a MDT or an oil gas separator for the garage drains that will tie into that. We're currently doing a route survey from Salem all the way down Middlesex to support a preliminary design of the gravity sewer that will come down Middlesex. We envision a series of manholes coming down. We believe it can be all gravity. There's one small crossing point about midway up that we need to make sure we can get around a culvert there. We believe that we can get under the Lover's Brook culvert, and then down will be pretty deep at that point into the pump station. So we'll also be able to have a provision for a stub that will come from the west into that last sewer manhole at Middlesex before we turn the corner and go into the pump station. And then a force main back up that same route to Salem Street. So before we get too deep into design, we really need to get a handle on what Wilmington's forecast is for full development, future flow into this system, because it is envisioned to be a municipal system that will take residents, will take commercial properties, take whatever you all believe needs to go into it, and ultimately design the system again with the MassWorks to be able to handle all of that. Additionally, we've had some preliminary discussions with Paul on the Lover's Brook culvert replacement, and I know that there was a semblance of a conceptual design and a number of $850,000 for that. So we see the sewer and the culvert as not necessarily part of this approval process. It's definitely part of the project. It's again envisioned to be done with a MassWorks grant. So we need to coordinate that and get an understanding from you all as far as what we need to show to get to the point to apply for the MassWorks grant. And then we believe what we'd like to see is the construction documents for those components that are part of the MassWorks grants to be done with the grant money, as with regards to that. So that's how we see that going forward. So also part of this project is the subdivision. As I said, we need to reconfigure these lots and create the 23-acre parcel. We have had discussions with Valerie and staff and council with regards to what that subdivision is, whether it's an A&R subdivision or whether it's under subdivision control. It was ultimately seen where Jefferson Road is not a public way. It's not on the town list that we would have to go through full subdivision control, and that process would be into the comprehensive permit. And the reason that is allowed is we don't need any waivers for, or any zoning variances for the office building lot, which is really the only lot that isn't part of the subdivision, or isn't part of the comprehensive permit, but is part of the subdivision. In that the current office lot is I think 89-8 assessor's map, and it goes kind of all the way out back, and we need to create that new line that's right at the end of Jefferson, that goes between Jefferson and the railroad, to create that lot. But that lot would be compliant. So what we envision here is to have within the comprehensive permit plan this preliminary subdivision, and then once the comprehensive permit is issued, we would present to the zoning board, in the place of the planning board, a recordable subdivision plan for endorsement under subdivision control. So I think that's the overview of the kind of the technical aspects of the project. I think we didn't touch on water, but water's already out there. There's hydrants out there. We would do whatever flow tests are needed to prove out that we've got enough capacity, volume, and pressure for firefighting needs. Then we would work with the fire department to supplement hydrant locations to their satisfaction. So whatever need be done there, we don't see that as an issue. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Before we get into comments and questions, let me just speak to the audience on TV. Obviously, to Governor Baker's March 12, 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people gathering in one place. We're holding this meeting via remote participation, but we are broadcasting it on WCTV Channel 9, Comcast Xfinity, Channel 37, Verizon Fios, and live stream on WCTV.org. This meeting, there isn't public comment associated with this meeting, but if you do want to dial in for some reason, instead of watching WCTV, you can do that by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and entering the meeting ID 814-5402-4422. Then press pound again, and at the next voice prompt, excuse me. And we will post this video so that it can be viewed after the meeting. And now to the folks, the departments. This is a comprehensive permit. It is not going to the planning board. Typically, applications that come in to CDTR this meeting go to the planning board. That's not the case for this one. It will be. It's being heard by the ZBA, and they'll issue a comprehensive permit for the project if they choose to. And the Conservation Commission will review the project as well. So a little bit different than typical, but we thought that it was a good idea to put this project in front of CDTR for this meeting to kind of get initial comments. I understand that you haven't had the plans very long, so this will be kind of geared towards initial comments, initial feedback, and then comments should be written and submitted to the ZBA or the Conservation Commission, whichever is appropriate. And I'm happy to, if you want to send them to me, I can send them to the ZBA, either way. So maybe I'll start out with comments and questions of my own before we get to everybody else. We'll definitely want to have Fire weigh in on this. And unfortunately, they weren't able to join us this morning. but I will reach out to them. On the subdivision piece of it, my understanding is that the actual definitive subdivision, the actual subdivision, would be a part of this comprehensive permit process, not as a separate process. The permit is issued, and our attorneys had kind of were looking for the list of waivers having to do with subdivision regs and what is proposed for Jefferson Road. So those waivers, I believe, would be worked into the comprehensive permit, and that would all take place under this comprehensive permit. That's what
Absolutely.
That was with one of our first actually comprehensive permits for Shawshene Commons. There was a subdivision road created to access that project. So we'll look for the waivers. We'll look for the actual subdivision piece of it during this process. And that lot line that for the existing office building, that's the line that you're using to create your new lot area for the project, and the percentages for zoning requirements and for riverfront and all of that. That's right?
That's correct.
Great. All right. And I believe the agreement with the selectmen had mentioned something to do with a bedroom analysis or a school analysis, kind of an analysis of what the impact would be to the schools. So we'll look for that information in the next, in some of the next filings. And then I guess I'll let others get into the details of the sewer, but if the sewer, if the sewer design, we'll need to see something for the sewer design so that it can be peer reviewed as part of this process, because you'll need the sewer for this development. But I'll let others talk about that in more detail. The peer reviews, I can speak to those. I did reach out to some firms. The town engineer and I came up with consultants for the disciplines. Water, Kleinfelder always reviews our water capacity analysis, so they'll be doing that. Sewer, Arcadis always reviews our sewer capacities and designs. For traffic, Green International will be peer reviewing the traffic study. And for the civil storm and wetlands review, BSC Group is going to be doing that. I've reached out to all of those firms for scopes and costs going. And one other question I had, Joe, you had mentioned that you were looking to use the MassWorks grant for the sewer design. My understanding was that the project would have to be kind of shovel ready for, or at least maybe like a 25% design. Is that what you're anticipating, doing a kind of a 25% design and then using MassWorks grant funds to finish the design?
Yes. Would be doing getting enough information so that we can get the MassWorks grant, and we can let you all review the concept there. But as far as construction level documents, those would be done using the grant money. And that's what we did in North Andover with a comprehensive roadway reconstruction, addition of a signal, widening, and major pedestrian upgrades. All that, the final documents, that was that had to go to Mass DOT, and that all of the 75% and 100% drawings were all done when using the MassWorks grant.
Okay. And then I guess one just other comment for the departments, if you would like a printed plan set, just let me know. I can convey that to the development team so that you can review the prints. It's really hard to review plans like this on the screen, but we can get those requests to whoever you guys want us to direct that to, whether it's Joe or Andrea or whoever.
I would get Valerie, get that to Brian.
Okay, sure.
They'll be able to get those printed out of our Chelmsford office and right down to you.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. Great. All right. Well, we can start kind of going around and talking about comments. Let's see. Jamie, do you want to start? You're first on my list here.
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for to the applicants for agreeing to do the Zoom meeting. This is always helpful when we have a chance to kind of weigh in right when the ground zero here. So first and foremost, the reconstruction of Jefferson Road. We've been getting away from an operational standpoint. I'm the operations manager, by the way, for Public Works, sorry. So we've been getting away from an operational standpoint from grass strips. And I noticed you're proposing one on Jefferson Ave. We do not have one there now. I guess I'd prefer to see that grass strip behind the sidewalk to kind of pump up the green space from the island on the North Wilmington parking lot.
Okay.
And I think that makes sense because I believe, according to the MOU, you have to reconstruct the sidewalks with cement concrete anyway, not bituminous, which calls out on the plan. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but so I think that's a tear up anyway, not just a mill and overlay on the sidewalk, which is what it says. So looking to eliminate the grass strip. Number two, right now we have an existing crosswalk on Jefferson Ave at Route 62, which has been eliminated on the plan, and I'm not just sure if that's because it's a preliminary design. We need to maintain that crosswalk for people that are just walking down the sidewalk of 62. A lot of pedestrians out there. And of course, because of that.
Yeah, that wasn't our intent. Our intent was.
Yep. And of course, the associated handicap ramps that would be associated with that need to be included, as well as on the entrance to Building A on Route 62. We need handicap ramps at that entrance connecting the crosswalk, the sidewalks.
Yep.
Right now on Jefferson Ave, we do have a problem with people parking on the road when the North Wilmington lot is full, which is quite often. Usually that parking lot fills up by 7:30 in the morning for commuting traffic. We have signs out there that say no parking. I don't believe the street is officially no parking as approved through the Board of Selectmen, but that would be something that I would be recommending. To get an official no parking on Jefferson Ave, especially because we're kind of shrinking up the road a little bit. So I would want to see those no parking signs carried over into the design.
Okay.
And related to that as well, I would recommend that there be something in the association documents that is going to restrict overflow parking from going into the North Wilmington commuter lot. That parking lot is essentially for people using the train. And, if you're not familiar with it, if you were to go over to your friends to watch the Patriots game at one of these new apartments and, there was no parking left in the garage, that's what I would park. There's a town lot there. But I think, I'd make a recommendation to whomever that parking lot be very clear that that's not going to be overflow for the project. Quite honestly, during the week, there isn't going to be any spaces anyway. There may be some spaces on the weekend. It's generally when we see vacancies in that parking lot. The current location of the pump station might be a problem. We installed underground drainage on that North Wilmington lot back in the early 2000s. And there's a very elaborate underground infiltration system under that parking lot. Where it is specifically really should get on your existing conditions plan. And I believe the engineering department's going to take a look to see what sort of record drawings they have for that, or at least a permitted design drawing. Just in that location, I'm not sure how far into the grass strip the chambers go, or if there's even space to put that sewer pump station there. I think Joe and Paul from our office, utility engineers, are going to be commenting on the sewer pump station, but having it completely underground there, I don't think is going to work. We're going to at least need the control panel above ground. We've been having some problems with below grade control panels as far as corrosion in the sewer environment. So that in access for maintenance, we're going to need some sort of a bump out or some place to park so we can maintain that pump station. Kind of a preliminary comment, but I'm just not sure that location there is going to work. Just a couple more things, and incidentally, I'll have all these in writing. We'll send them over to engineering so that we can compile them into one review document. But we currently plow Jefferson Road. The current proposal shows the access road kind of turning into the parking lot for Building B, going over the wetland crossing. It's going to be very difficult for us with a six-wheel dump truck to be plowing snow and then all of a sudden be in the middle of that parking lot, which will be full of cars with a big snow load on the plow. We don't want to dump that into private property. And short of there being a turnaround for our truck, quite honestly, I'm not sure we're going to be able to plow the second half of Jefferson Road as is. I mean, to be honest, even though it's in the right of way, it really isn't a private access drive for that Building B. So what I would envision is we would probably go down Jefferson Road and do a loop with the truck into the exit for the North Wilmington parking lot to kind of turn out. And obviously your own snow and ice team will be plowing the parking lot for Building A and B. So maybe we can just kind of do a joint effort there and they can pick up where we leave off. But the last thing I want to do is enter private property with snow from Jefferson Road. And the trucks we use it's not just a regular pickup in most cases, it's a very large truck. So that really should be thought about, and some sort of a maintenance agreement on how much of Jefferson Road we can actually plow. We'll do as much as we can. I just logistically don't know if we can get the whole thing.
No, happy to work those details out, and it makes sense for you to loop into that commuter lot and us to take care of the rest.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Landscaping. The landscaping plan, there are a series of black dots. I'm assuming those are shrubs, especially along the Route 62 side. Yeah, there you go. Those black dots, I believe they're shrubs. I'd like to see maybe some small trees in that location. We just planted about 5 or 6 street trees just east of this location in the public right-of-way. And I guess what I envision is it's a great opportunity to kind of continue the street tree planting down. They don't necessarily have to be in the public right away. They can be in your private islands, but kind of look like they're street trees. So, I guess I wouldn't prefer shrubbery at that location, but maybe some small ornamental trees if they fit. If not, something that's a little bit larger would be considered. And at the same token, I think it's a great opportunity. I've always thought of North Wilmington as kind of a mini center of town. I'd like you to take a look at maybe the inclusion of some black antique style lamppost street lighting in this area. I think that would really look good along Jefferson Ave and 62. I'm thinking along the lines of something like Woburn Center. A lot of other towns are doing this, and it really kind of hits home that this area is a center of town, and it really lights up the sidewalks quite nicely. And if you're proposing lighting on your site anyway, it might be a good way to integrate that type of light into it. But I guess that's more of a recommendation to Val and more the aesthetics of it. But I think it's a great opportunity to do that. And, those lights can be behind the sidewalk. They don't need to necessarily be in our existing sidewalk to limit handicap access and whatnot. And yeah, those are my preliminary comments. Like I said, I'll get them over to engineering so that they can be included in their comprehensive review.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Brian, do you have any comments at this point?
Hi, Val, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So Jamie touched upon the 2 comments I was going to make, one being the no parking on Jefferson. I'd like to see that posted. And the other was the crosswalk. I didn't see the crosswalk, but obviously they'll address that in their future plans. So those are the only two comments that I had.
Okay, thank you. Mike Woods.
I have no comments at this time.
All right. Al Spalding, building inspector. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, how we all doing? One of the questions I have is, you're going to install the sewer system, or the sewer. Are the other people on that street going to be allowed to tie into that sewer?
Yes, that's what we're envisioning. So it's public benefit. The MassWorks program is, although the work needs to be tied to a project, it's not exclusive to the project. So the public benefit there is making the sewer available to whomever Wilmington believes needs to be tied into it.
All right, the water line is going to be sufficient for a sprinkler system also for those 104 units?
We will make sure it is, yeah.
All right.
And
the other thing is I noticed that you guys must have a special in with barbers and stuff. You guys look well groomed. Here I am looking like I'm back in the 1970s here. You know what I mean?
My wife's got a pair of clippers, and she actually did it yesterday because I was going to be.
I would trust my wife with clippers. I'd have no ears. All right, that's it for me. I appreciate it. The only other thing is that I will be calling for third-party inspections to do like fire stopping and maybe HVAC and stuff like that there.
No problem.
Those will be special inspections, and that'll be on your end to pay for those guys. All right.
No issue.
Thanks, Al.
All right.
All right, who is next on the list? Let's see. Mike Woods. Oh, I already went to Mike Woods.
Yeah.
Let's see. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks, Val. Thanks, Andrew and Joe and the rest of your team for giving the presentation this morning via Zoom. I've only done a cursory review at this point, so I'm not going to have a comprehensive review until I'd like to get a paper set. It's just too difficult to really get into the nuts and bolts of the design and give a valid peer review until I receive that. So did you say one's on the way?
Yeah, Brian can make a set in Chelmsford and get it by to you. Either drop it off physically.
Once I receive it, I'll have my comments in before or with the first peer review for the civil and stormwater. So when BSC submits their peer review letter, I should probably even have it before then.
So, Paul, you're working in town hall in the office?
I'm at town hall, Joe. Yeah. And
is it accessible, or is there a drop-off point outside?
Yeah, if you want to drop off outside, it'd be great. If you want to just shoot me an email or a call, I can coordinate to just come out and meet you in the parking lot, or someone from you. It's fine.
We'll get that done today for you.
If I could jump in and request a set of plans as well, that would be great.
All right.
Same thing. You could drop them in the front door mail slot. That would be fine.
Will do.
Thank you. Sorry, Paul.
No, it's fine. You guys hit a lot on my questions on the MassWorks grant and the process. Joe, when do you think we are going to see at least the 25% design for some of the offsite mitigation, the sewer and the culverts, and some of the roadway improvements to Jefferson, and I believe Middlesex was included in there too?
We'll be able to put maybe a 10% set just to kind of get the ball rolling. I've got to check in on the route survey. That's going to be critical. That's underway now. Hoping to get that done by the end of the week. And then, so I'd say a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay. I haven't poured through the documents, the electronic documents that I've got. Was there any narrative or at all on the sewer for, particularly like the demand from just your development, at least, and what your expected peak flows are from your development, or are you waiting to submit all that with the whole sewer package?
Well, I mean, we need to understand from your standpoint what you think the future capacity you need is, what the future input you need is. I know that you've got a master plan and there's a set number of residents and commercial properties that need to be tied in to do that. In direct answer to your question, no, we didn't submit any kind of narrative. We're looking to work with you over the next week or so that we can define all of that, and start to put that package together. So what I would suggest is that Brian and you talk offline about how that gets done, as far as us defining our needs, you defining your needs, and getting that into the beginnings of a design summary of what we're going after. Similarly, I think on the Middlesex Ave culvert, we need to understand your expectations. There has been at least one person in town that's said that culvert replacement will have to meet stream crossing standards. I don't see that ever happening. It's just not the type of existing crossing that lends itself to that. So I think it needs to be somewhat of an in-kind replacement. But you've thought about that. You've put together some conceptual design. So we need to work together, and I'm going to put Brian Goudreau at my office point on both of those things to work with you to kind of hash out some of those details.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of a lot there, but let me start with the sewer. I'd like to include the Director of Public Works, our Utilities Manager, Joe Labeo, who's on the call now as well, and our Operations Manager, Jamie McGaldy, in on those discussions, so we're all on the same page and we move forward in concert there. Jamie hit on the pump station location. We're gonna discuss that internally. If not today, then I'd expect either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and get some direction over to you guys on what we're looking for there, location, and all the concerns that Jamie brought up, parking for staff to maintain that system, and then the type of vault. The culvert, yeah, we would have to go through the stream crossing standards. It is an existing culvert, right? And the way it cuts across Middlesex Ave at that angle, I'm not sure it would ever be able to meet all the stream crossing standards. That would just be my opinion. But we would want to see at least a preliminary design on that culvert. Now, the last reports we got from MassDOT, they did an underwater inspection. There is deterioration and some section loss on the top of those culverts, which was kind of the impetus on including it into the MassWorks grant. So we do have concern with moving forward, any additional traffic, construction vehicles, uptake of, so this culvert replacement is kind of high on our priority list as a municipality.
Understood. I mean, there are provisions for, you know, emergency work, so that kind of get us out of the having to go too deep into the stream crossing standards. So
it's not quite there yet, Joe. It's the prioritization designated by MassDOT was to schedule to start permitting and design work for it. So this is hitting at, in my opinion, at the right time. So I think it'd still go through you know, a design and permitting process, but it is definitely an important component of this project for the town. So we're excited that that would be part of the MassWorks grant. As far as Jefferson Road, if I recall in the MOA, the first 300 feet or so will be will be designed to eventually be accepted by the town. We're gonna have to just review that MOA, and Jamie hit on the concrete sidewalks, and just make sure that whatever you're showing here is jives with the MOA there. So I think there were a couple things that weren't shown correctly.
Okay.
All right. Existing conditions, guys, are you planning on, did I read it correctly that you digitized the topo and the 100-year flood elevation from a like 2017 plan?
From the Cameron Moran plan, yeah.
Are you planning to do your own topo and floodplain designation elevation, or are you just going to rely on those, on the digitized topography?
It's digitized in that we didn't have access to the CAD file, but it was the Cameron Moran plan was a physical on the ground survey. So we've done some spot verification of that, and we will do more as we advance and get closer to having to support construction. But there'll be a point at which we need to, when we get to construction documents, we need to fully own all of the base information.
Right. I just want to alert you to, if you didn't know already, there's a MassDOT set a disc on the head wall for Lover's Brook that's a benchmark that's tied into NAVD 88. So it's there for your route survey too.
No, we're tying into that for the route survey.
Good. Okay. Now just site design. Again, very cursory. This was just based on a quick look. I plan to really get into the details of the drawings over the next week or so. But one thing I noticed, the entrance to Building A from Middlesex Ave, I'm sorry, from Jefferson Road, the first entrance there, it is close to Middlesex Ave. And I noticed in I believe VAI's traffic study, they commented on that as well. Any thoughts on how to address that? Has your team looked at how close that is to Middlesex Ave and potential conflicts there? Or traffic study?
We haven't directly, but we will.
Okay. One recommendation they had was to, instead of a full service access drive there, was to make it a one-way in only. Just to give you a heads up.
Okay.
Now looking at the other parking lot there for Building A, that is more of a spur. I'd like to just see just a better turnaround at the end. I mean, it doesn't have to be a cul-de-sac by any means. You wouldn't be able to do that, but maybe a hammerhead or just some ability for someone to get to the end and do a three-point turn out of there. Because Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, did you mention that these wouldn't be assigned parking spaces outside?
They will not be assigned parking spaces on the outside, but they will be assigned parking spaces on the inside of building A, and then the 15 garage spots for building B.
We'll
We
take
will
a look at
control
that,
everything
Paul.
though by sticker. So regardless of, even though the outdoor ones won't be specifically assigned, anyone who parks there, to Mr. McGaldy's original point, we will control everything by sticker. So if they're a resident, they'll have a Princeton sticker to park there. We agree completely about the signage issue, both on Jefferson Road as well as for the T commuter parking lot. So all of those things we will control.
Okay.
We'll take a look at that, Paul. What we've done in the past is striped out the end space on the left or right and signed it for no parking, and that's then available to somebody that goes down to the end and finds there's no parking spaces left. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Then lastly, just a couple notes on stormwater. First, review setbacks. I'm not sure if you show them or not. I know you didn't show the leach fields, the existing septic system out there for the, what is it, 200 Jefferson Ave on the survey plan, but I see it here on the grading and drainage plan. So just be mindful of the 50-foot setback from infiltration from stormwater to the SAS. Policy also calls out 50-foot offsets from bordering vegetated wetland, 10-foot offsets from buildings, 10-foot offsets from property boundaries. So those are all things you can expect in my comment letter after I get in to review the plan, or am able to do a full review of the plan. Is there a section of one of your underground infiltration systems, the one in front of building A, is that overflow outlet control structure tied into municipal drainage?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to take a real close look at that too. Generally not a fan, even with overflow or for emergency overflow and outlet control. Not generally a fan of that, but I got to do more research on where that drain line's going, and I got to get into your report. So it's not really fair to me to make a etched in stone comment at this point, but that's something I'm going to take a closer look at. And lastly, pre-treatment. What are you guys using for pre-treatment devices for these underground systems?
Right now it's deep zone putty catch basins to isolator rows.
Okay, is the site's not in a zone 2, is that correct? I didn't think.
I do not.
No, it's not.
But what were you getting for a textural? What's your textural class for your? I know you had mentioned it. Was it Brian? Yeah, but is it sandy gravel?
Yeah, it's sand.
And yeah, so it's a site with rapid infiltration. Is that correct?
Yep.
So you'll have to meet the 44% TSS removal for infiltration practices, and we don't consider isolator rows as pre-treatment devices. So you can use it, that's fine, but we don't give credit for it.
All right, so we have to have a standalone oil grit separator prior to discharge to the isolator row.
Got it.
Okay.
And that's all I got right now, Valerie and team. Thank you. And I'll have a note after I get the after I give a review of the paper set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Viewing at home, that's the town engineer, Paul Aluni. I'm going to go now to Joe Labeo from DPW. Joe, do you have any comments?
I do, yeah. This is Joe Labeo, DPW. Val, can you hear me okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, perfect. Jamie and Paul mentioned that we're going to do a little internal review here on the pump station location. But just a general comment to echo what they said, we need to look at siting of an emergency generator, fencing, landscaping, future access for maintenance vehicles. So like I said, we'll talk about that internally time being. A couple general comments on the water system there. On the existing condition plan, can you just add the water main size for the existing water main, actually both in Jefferson Road and Middlesex Ave?
Will do.
And then all buildings that are being demolished, they need to have the water lines cut and capped at the water mains in the street.
Okay.
And then I think you mentioned there'll be 4 drains in Building A, correct?
There will be, yeah.
Okay, so those need to be approved by the MWRA.
Okay, so they'll have to meet the MWRA sizing.
Right. And then
use their standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last thing I have is the water main, the current water main at the end of Jefferson Road before it enters the area of Building B. Could you add a gate valve right where that existing fire hydrant is? And that will be the determining line as far as where the service begins for Building B in relation to public water main, the 8-inch.
We can do that, yeah.
Okay. And that is all I have.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Let's see. I think, unless anyone else has comments, just one question for the group. So in front of the Conservation Commission right now, you have an ANRAD plan that you're going to present to the commission on Wednesday. Then after that ANRAD is, or the ORAD is issued, you would submit an NOI to the CONCOM for the project. Will that NOI include the culvert as well, or how are you thinking about that piece of things? Will that be a separate filing?
Yeah, separate filing.
Okay.
We don't, I mean, it's going to involve Mass DOT and it's public project. You know, Wilmington's got control, or DOT's got control of the site. So we'd like to keep it separate so they're not tied within the chain of title and so forth. So it'll be separate and probably lag it by a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But our plan, we're currently putting together the NOI for the project. So
okay.
We'll be right behind the ANRAD with that.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for us, or any remaining questions from the departments?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
This has been incredibly helpful feedback. There isn't anything we've heard today that I don't think we can work with. Between you and Paul and now the rest of the department heads, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciate the amount of thought that's gone into this from the town's perspective. And Joe and Brian will work with all of you on the technical side, and Dan and Andrea and I will continue to work with you on the public presentation piece. But there isn't anything I think we've heard today that we can't work with.
Great.
Valerie, do you just let us know if the fire department also needs a paper copy, and what, you know, if they need any, we'd be happy to have a conference call with them to
yeah,
go.
I think that's probably a great idea. If you want to get them a paper copy and sort of set up a meeting with the fire department, with Chief Kavanaugh or whoever he wants involved with that, I think that'd be a great move.
Okay, we'll proactively do that.
Great, thank you. All right, well, thank you, everyone. And
Val, can you hear me?
Yes.
Brian.
Hi, Brian.
I'd like to be kept in the loop with the sewer project. Obviously, it greatly impacts the traffic in that area. So just keep me in the loop with any of the any meetings with the sewer project.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And again, if you have comments, please submit them in writing to the ZBA. You can pass them to me if you'd like. You can email them to me, or you can email them to Kelly in the building department. And let me know if you have any questions.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, stay safe.
Thank